Hey Baylor fans, this is your call to gear up with Harley-Davidson of Waco. Whether you're hitting the open road or tailgating at McLean Stadium, we've got the ride to match your Bear pride. Check out our wide selection of new and pre-owned motorcycles, visit our service department, or shop all the latest gear and accessories to show off your Baylor spirit and Harley pride. Visit us today and find your freedom on two wheels. Harley-Davidson of Waco, where Baylor fans never ride alone. Visit in-store or at hdwaco.com. Sic Em Bears. Welcome back to the Sic Em Podcast, presented by Harley-Davidson of Waco. I'm your host, John Morris. On this week's episode, we're catching up with legendary Baylor wide receiver and long jump champion Ricky Thompson. During his time in Waco, Thompson became a two-sport letter winner and was part of the 1974 Miracle on the Brazos Baylor football team. Now, after a 7-year NFL career, Thompson is entering year 25 as Baylor football's sideline analyst. Ricky Thompson, welcome into the Sic Em Podcast.
This is pretty cool. We've got a great view here in the stadium. I kind of like this.
And it's football season, isn't it? It's here.
Unbelievable. Yeah, I just got back from a trip with a grandson to the National Card Show and the Pro Hall of Fame. So we're in football mood.
That'll get your juices flowing.
Exactly.
Did Jack come back with any new Ricky Thompson trading cards, or does he have all those?
No, he's past that. He's on ones that are really worth money now. So
those are priceless.
He did come back with some good cards.
Very cool. That had been a fun trip.
Yeah, it was great.
Football is here, and I think most of our viewers and listeners know you're with us on the radio broadcast. I'm not sure they know this is your 25th season, so silver anniversary season this year.
Hard to believe.
It is.
25 years. We were talking about that with Jerry last year, and none of us have missed a game in that period.
Don't make him big deal of that.
I know. And even JJ hadn't missed. Not sure how many years, but that's pretty cool.
JJ, 21st year coming up also.
Yeah.
So we got a great crew, and you are perfect for that job, our sideline analyst there. You've got the perspective going back to your playing days here at Baylor, and then you've been around the program so long. I mean, and then 25 years every game. So you've got really good perspective on Baylor football.
You know what? It is so much fun just to be down there and have the feel of the game and listen to these guys. You know, I can actually hear them talk on the field and kind of know what's coming and see it and feel it. You can tell sometimes when I talk to you guys, I can tell you, man, this sideline is really alive, or sometimes maybe it's not. But that perspective is really fun, and don't want to jinx it, but 24 years too without getting run over.
That's good. Stay loose. Keep your head on a swivel.
There is an official out there. I forgot his name, but every year he comes up to me because he's been doing this about 28 years, and he says, man, one of us is going to quit sooner or later.
That's great. Very cool. And we always halfway kid with you, but we're serious. You're out in the weather. We're up in the booth, but you're in the weather. You're on the sidelines, and you've seen a little bit of everything, haven't you?
I have, and what I've discovered is I will take 102 versus 22 any day. And I guess the brutal games have been at the Armed Forces Bowl. It was 12 degrees, really cold. And then one that was really cold, which it didn't really matter, was the Texas ball game. Turn out the lights at Floyd Casey, win the conference championship. I don't think anybody felt cold in that game. And it was about, 20, 22? It was really cold.
I think coldest game ever at Floyd Casey.
Yeah.
That one was.
It was cold, but what a great night.
Yeah. Memorable, very memorable. So you've been a part of so many memorable games, moments, even seasons, with Baylor athletics. You go back your playing days, you're part of the championship team, Southwest Conference championship team in 1974. Came to Baylor out of Gatesville. Were you always coming to Baylor, or what was that recruiting like?
No, I hate to say this very loud, but actually I was going to Texas.
Right.
I had verbally, I guess, committed in the terms today, but told them that I was coming. And late in that process, Coach Hart and Cotton Davidson talked to me, and Cotton would say, they're running the wishbone down there. They're going to play one receiver and probably not throw the ball very much. and we're going to run pro-style offense. And Coach Hart said, and we're going to let you run track too. And that's a pretty good setup.
Yeah.
And I just, in that conversation, the last one with Coach Hart, it was, this is what I need to do. And changed my mind, came here, and gosh, never regretted that.
That's great. And, of course, Cotton from Gatesville.
Absolutely.
You had to have known him growing up, right?
Forever.
Yeah.
Went to the same church. Of course, in the falls, Cotton was always gone.
Right.
But kind of cool to have an NFL guy in your church. And in the later years, many may not remember, but was a longtime coach for the Raiders, and just was honored just a few years ago before he passed away as the oldest living Raider, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah.
But to get to play for someone like that was my receivers coach, and then Coach Hart on the track side was really, really cool.
Those two guys, if they sink their teeth into you, I don't know how you say no. I don't know how you say no to Baylor.
Coach Hart, I was talking, it's a funny story, it was in my home, and I said, well, I think I want to come to Baylor. And he jumps up out of his chair, runs across and shakes my hand and said, I guess I'm done now.
That's all it took, right?
Yeah, that's right.
That's great.
Yeah.
You were looking for a place where you could go and do both, right? Run track, long jump, and play football.
That was important to me, a state championship in the long jump in high school, and wanted to continue that. And I think that was such a benefit that Coach Taff and Coach Hart would let me do that, because I didn't have a down of spring training the entire time I was here. It was all track. Coach Taff knew that coming in. Cotton knew that coming in. Coach Hart, obviously, and what a great setup. I mean, it was perfect for me, and was able to be on a conference championship track team. Conference championships in the long jump, and then the championship in football.
Wow.
So what a great, perfect setup for me.
These days you see guys who come in and they want to do both, and they start out doing both, doing two sports. But at some point, you're kind of at that fork in the road. You got to go one way or the other, like Robert Griffin.
Absolutely.
I mean, think about how good a track guy he was.
Yeah.
But then he eventually said, I got to do spring football. I got to devote this. I got to get bigger with football. But you got to do both all 4 years.
Well, and I think the difference with Robert, too, he was a quarterback.
Yeah, right.
It would be really hard for a quarterback to miss an entire spring. But when I was running, think about it, off that 74 team, we had Alcee Jackson running track. Scooter Reed was running track. So there were three of us that ran track throughout our entire career. And not many schools would let you do that. But also, I think conditioning-wise, it was really remarkable what track did for me. I think speed-wise and the workouts that Coach Hart had us on were a huge advantage to our football careers, too. And receiving-wise, we didn't change offenses. We ran the same thing. So after the first year, I really pretty much knew that, but it was still unusual that Coach Taff would let us miss the entire spring to run track.
You didn't do anything spring football?
Nothing.
Not one practice?
No, not one practice in 4 years.
Interesting. Well, worked out well for you. Great career here at Baylor. You remember the Baylor Athletic Hall of Fame, Southwest Conference Hall of Fame, again, for the two sports, football and track and field. In 74, it's just one of those years that, Baylor people know about, talk about, the Texas game, the miracle on the Brazos comeback. What was it like to be a part of that whole season?
Yeah, all our guys are coming back for the Air Force game. 50 years, just hard to believe. Really don't want to say that very loud. But right now it looks like 62 or 3 guys.
Wow.
Can you believe that?
That's wild.
From a 50-year team, 60-something guys will be back for the Air Force game. And, what a remarkable season. There were so many stories of that season. Beating Oklahoma State, who was number 8 in the country, was the first big win, and then go to Arkansas on the road, have to score the last touchdown 3 times because they kept calling it back. And I played with a guy named Ike Forte in Washington who had played for Arkansas in that game, and the touchdown they scored to go ahead 17-14, Ike landed on about the 1-yard line flat on his back and then stuck the ball out behind him like this after he was down. And I used to give him grief about that in Washington. I said, you're the only guy that can score a touchdown when you're down on the 1. But What a game. I remember that they wouldn't let us out of the parking lot after the game. The fans had blocked our bus out of the lot.
Right.
And you know what? We didn't even care.
Right.
We would have sat there for another 2 or 3 hours. And then, of course, you get to the Texas game, and what a phenomenal game that was, down 24-7, get a block kicked. I was lucky and got a ball across the middle and scored in the third quarter. And then Philip Kent scored, put us up 28-24. Bub Hicks kicked 2 field goals after that. An absolute pandemonium. I'm telling you, it was. We always stretch it. It's been 50 years, but it seems like an hour after the game, nobody left.
Oh,
I mean, everybody was still around, and some of which spent the night on the field.
That's true. Dr. Reynolds, I think, and Ralph Storm spent the night in the press box with the scoreboard lights still on.
With the scoreboard lights on.
There were probably some others too. But that's the start of that season. So going into '74, y'all were coming off a 3-9 season, 2-9 season.
2-9.
In '73, Coach Taft coming in first. 5-6 his first year, really exceeded expectations, I think. But then 2-9 in '73.
Right.
What were the thoughts? What was the prospects going into '74?
Well, I think obviously we knew we were better than that. '73 was a year full of some injuries, and just things started rolling in the wrong direction. That's hard to recover. And then in '74, I think what really kicked that off was actually a loss. But we opened with Oklahoma, number 1 in the country. Joe Washington and all of that crew, Barry Switzer. We were something like 40, 50-point underdogs. And that game with 8-9 minutes to go was 7-5.
Wow.
In OU. So I think with that, Switzer came in the locker room after the game, and he said, "You guys are going to do good things.
How about that?
Y'all are going to be good."
Yeah.
And I think that game alone said, you know what? We just played the number 1 team in the country on the road and scared them to death. And I think that's really maybe the game that made us feel like we were pretty good. Switzer came in the locker room. I thought that was pretty cool. A lot like Roll did after the Texas game. But we also got a message from Roll that everybody saw today, what I knew a long time ago.
Wow.
So that was pretty cool.
Wow, how about that? So played well, but lost that game to Oklahoma, went to Missouri the second week. That was a tough schedule, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was tough. We lost that one. Honestly, didn't play that well.
Yeah.
Pretty tough recovery. And actually, the thing I remember about that field, I had an ankle that we found out later was actually fractured in 2 days that year. I played the whole season with it taped like a cast. Thank God for Skip Cox.
Yeah.
But that field had holes all in it. The grass was horrible, and we didn't play that well. So that was big. The next week was Oklahoma State at home, number 8, and really steamrolled them. 31-14 maybe. It really wasn't that close. So. But I think those 3 first games, think about it, OU, Missouri, and Oklahoma State. That's a pretty tough road.
Exactly.
And we weathered that well. Then went to Florida State, which Florida State, not the Florida State we know now, but still on the road, and came back from a 17-0 halftime deficit to win that game. So just a lot of tough games where guys hung in there and won those games early, and I think that really showed as the season went that we were pretty good and could win late if we had to.
Was that the Florida State game, the Burt Reynolds halftime, Les Benson?
That was it. All of us there will never forget that.
Yeah.
That was an induction of Burt Reynolds into the Florida State Hall of Fame, which is kind of cool. I mean, I would like to have seen it. But we were in the locker room getting chewed out, actually. In fact, Coach Taft had to kick in the locker door because we were locked out of our locker room. So things weren't going too well. Then we come out ready to go, and their band is still on the field. Band director is up on his ladder, and Coach Taft just yells, "Somebody get that band off the field." Well, Leslie opens the gate and starts jogging down the sideline. We're thinking, what in the world is he doing? Grabs the band director off the ladder and just sets him down and said, "Y'all need to get off the field."
Right. Coach told me to do this.
And the stands just go nuts. I mean, they are booing, yelling, but Leslie Benson got the band off the field, and then we outscored them 21-0 in the second half. And won.
That's a great story.
What a funny story. I would imagine Coach Taft's insides just fell when he saw Benson take off down that sideline. So we're going to start the second half with a personal foul penalty.
Yeah, exactly.
Against the band.
The band.
Yeah.
That's great. That was a big win on the road, and then the Arkansas game you talked about, opening conference play.
Right.
And then was A&M next? Was A&M the next game?
It was fairly early. That probably makes sense.
I think it was.
Yeah.
I think A&M was next, and unfortunately that was a 20-0 loss to A&M.
Yeah, really misleading on that. It was a 3-0 game, I think, maybe 6-0, and A&M fumbles. And their outside receiver, Roach, the ball bounced up into his hands, and he went like 40 yards with the fumble and scored, made it 13-0.
Yeah.
So offensively, we weren't very good that day. Score was a little misleading, but again, we start coming back from tough losses with the rest of the season, didn't lose again, and went all the way to the Cotton Bowl. So, I think you're right. That probably was after the Arkansas
I think
game.
it was because you guys were 1-1 in conference. That would have been a win over Arkansas, the loss at A&M. You were 3-4 overall.
Right.
But then you didn't lose again in the regular season. You won 5 straight.
Hey, Baylor fans, this is your call to gear up with Harley-Davidson of Waco. Whether you're hitting the open road or tailgating at McLean Stadium, we've got the ride to match your Bear pride. Check out our wide selection of new and pre-owned motorcycles, visit our service department, or shop all the latest gear and accessories to show off your Baylor spirit and Harley pride. Visit us today and find your freedom on 2 wheels. Harley-Davidson of Waco, where Baylor fans never ride alone. Visit in-store or at hdwaco.com. Sic Em Bears.
Right. Well, we finished 8-3, so I guess we would have been 3-3 at that point, maybe.
You're right.
And the fourth loss was against Penn State in the Cotton Bowl.
That's true.
But what a schedule! I mean,
exactly.
Really tough. You go back and look at that now. Coach Taft didn't shy away from it. The next year, we opened with Ole Miss, Auburn, and Michigan on the road.
Wow.
Another tough
Good
opening.
grief, yeah.
And we actually were 1-0-2 after those. 2 of those games were ties, no overtime.
Yeah, that's
and
right.
Then we
2
beat
ties.
Ole Miss. So what a crazy stat to be 1-0-2.
So the Texas game, relay to everyone watching or listening. I mean, at that point, Texas was, they were recruiting whoever they wanted to keep them away from other schools,
Absolutely.
just filling up their sideline and their roster. I mean, they were pretty dominant at that point.
Yeah. Another thing that Cotton told me, these guys have no scholarship limits, so you're going to have a lot of guys down there. But, yeah, isn't that something? They would actually recruit guys just so they wouldn't go to other schools and play against them. I think we had lost to them, 17 consecutive years. Pretty unimpressive first half. Alcee had a long touchdown early in that game to go up 7-0. Then Raymond Claiborne scored on a pitch, made it 7-all, I think, and it was downhill after that, 24-7. But great adjustments at halftime, particularly on the defensive side. Offensively, we were moving the ball, just didn't punch it in. But defensively, we started crashing Ron Burns off the corner on nearly every play, caused a fumble later in the second half, just really crushed Marty Akins before he almost as quickly as he got the snap. So, I mean, those guys completely shut down Texas in the second half.
Yeah.
Unbelievable, 27-0. But who would think after that first half our defense would come out and completely shut those guys down? You had Darrell Luce in the middle and just a lot of great guys over there that played great defense.
And the block punt really keyed it, didn't it? Keyed the turnaround.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Johnny Green, almost Gary Green, a corner. Johnny Green blocked the punt. And that set us off, and then it's 4th and 1, I guess, and Neal pulls it and goes to the corner of the end zone to make it 24-14. So you really got a ball game right there, and things snowball from there. I remember the weather was kind of foggy and misty and just really a football day for November.
Frank Fallon used to tell the story that he could see the taillights. People were leaving at halftime, right? I mean, you're down 24-7.
Yeah, and
you hadn't beat Texas in all those years.
Hard to blame them.
Nasty weather, all those things. Early November 9th. He could see the taillights, people leaving, and then all of a sudden, maybe some brake lights, when that punt was blocked, and people turned around and came back in.
Yeah, funny story. Cotton was in the press box, and he actually talk down to our coaches and say, hey, guys, everybody's coming back. There were headlights coming back into the stadium in the second half.
Yeah.
So that's a funny story. Of course, we didn't see any headlights. We were busy.
Right. What a great win, and really the seminal moment of that miracle in the Brazos season. Coach Staff doesn't like that term, does he? Miracle.
No, he didn't think there was anything about that was a miracle.
Right.
He
You
just
agree
thought
with that?
We were pretty good.
Yeah.
I mean, a miracle's different. I mean, in that game, we had to make the plays to win the game.
Yeah.
It's different maybe if they would have fumbled 4 or 5 times or interceptions for touchdowns. But even at that, you're making the plays. I mean, a defense that shuts that wishbone offense down completely in the second half. Then we put 27 points on the board. That's not much of a miracle.
No, that's true.
That's making plays.
Yeah. And you mentioned it earlier, but Darryl Royal came in your locker room to congratulate you guys.
He did. Class act.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. He just came in, and don't remember everything that he said, but the last thing he said, you guys go all the way.
Wow.
And I mean, that's something you don't forget. That was really cool. And he came in there really quickly. Surely he had gone into the locker room first, but it seems like he was in our locker room pretty quickly. So just class act on his part.
Wow. So you win that game, but that doesn't clinch anything for you.
Absolutely not.
But you do finish out the regular season without any losses. But you had to have some help, right? Since you'd lost to A&M.
Yeah.
A&M had to lose to Texas that final game of the regular season.
Well, and a game that people missed that season, after the Texas game, we had Texas Tech at home the next week. They were ranked. Really, really tough game. We won 17-10. Could have really been a letdown weekend. I mean, that was really, if you're looking at a game that could have really cost us, that would have been an easy game to lose. So that one gets looked over a lot of the time, but I think that was really important. And then SMU after that in Dallas, and that's a game where somebody put a sign out here on I-35, the last one leaving Waco, turn out the lights. But we had a huge crowd in Dallas. I mean, probably, I don't know how many were at the game, is 45,000, and I think literally 35 or 40 of them were Baylor people. So that was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Then, of course, finished with Rice at home and went out undefeated for the rest of the season and won it all. Then the really fun thing, the day before that Rice game, we all go to the Letterman's Lounge and watched Texas and A&M in Austin. And that game ended up, remember the score, 32-3 Texas. Ooh. They scored quickly. A&M fumbled a couple of times. So what a great Friday afternoon that was.
Which you needed A&M to lose to have a chance to win the championship.
We had to.
Right.
We had to. That gave A&M their second loss. Yeah. Otherwise, we would have both been, I guess, 6-1, and they would have gone to the Cotton Bowl because of their win over us.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
So, absolutely. We had to have Texas win that one. And remember also, we beat Texas, but SMU later beat Texas in Dallas, which moved them to 2 losses. So both A&M and Texas finished 5-2, and we were 6-1.
Wow.
So we got the help we needed.
At some point, Bob Hope spoke to you guys, or was in Waco? What was that?
That was before the Texas Tech game. He was here for some sort of engagement. I don't remember what it was, but he came into our Friday night meeting at the old Matador Hotel across I-35. Most people have never heard of the Matador, but that's where we stayed nights before ball games. And Coach Taft surprised us with Bob Hope.
How about that?
Just hilarious. What a great guy. It was so funny. And, he just finished, says, you guys go out and win tomorrow, go out the rest of the way and win all of it.
Gosh.
So what a cool year. And events that happened that year, but I'd actually forgotten that one too. You just brought it up.
I just remember it there's a pretty good video, from that season where he's a part of that. So pretty cool there. So you go to the Cotton Bowl, which at that time in the Southwest Conference, that was your goal, to get to the Cotton Bowl as Southwest Conference champs. You guys were there, conference champs, for the first time since 1924.
Yeah, what amazing ride that was, from last to first. That doesn't happen too often, but I mean, the Cotton Bowl at that time, and still is, but really big time then, because you did not have all the bowl games that you have now. They were fairly limited. Sugar, Cotton, Rose, all those were the major bowls, and you almost had to win your league to get in a bowl game at that time. You could get in some of the other bowls, but not many choices. So what a huge honor to go to Dallas into the Cotton Bowl, and that close to home particularly.
Yeah.
That was really a great event.
Now, that was another occasion. Last one out of Waco, turn out the lights. Didn't Baylor fans just flood the Cotton Bowl?
Oh, yeah. In fact, at that time, you have to go back and check it for sure, but I'm pretty sure that set a record for home team Cotton Bowl sales.
Is that right?
Yeah, in 75.
And you guys fell to Penn State. Good game. You had 2 touchdowns, 2 of Baylor's 3 touchdowns in that game.
Yeah, we got off to a pretty good start, up 7-3 at the half. Jimmy Cephalo, who I ended up playing against in the NFL too, ended up in Miami, scored, put them up, I guess, 10-7, second half. We scored again. I caught a ball from Neal that put us up 14-10, and then it kind of steamrolled from there. They even returned an onside kick for a touchdown.
No.
So, with something like that, you're in trouble. But they had a really great team. We didn't have the best day, but what an honor just to be there as Southwest Conference champions.
You guys played well. I mean, Penn State was a really good team, finished top number 8, I think, in the nation. You guys played really well in the game, though. It wasn't like, hey, we're here, we're satisfied. Right. You wanted to win that game.
Yeah,
also.
And the score is really misleading, but we took some chances late, too, just because we were down and we were playing to win. So score is misleading. I mean, we played toe-to-toe with them through 3 quarters, and then things kind of got out of hand. But we weren't fearful with the schedule we had so far. So we were used to it.
Yeah. Started with Oklahoma and ended with Penn State.
Right.
What was the celebration? Didn't you have a big banquet at the end when everything was over?
We did.
End of the year?
At the convention center. That was really cool. I don't know how many people were there, but of course the community was invited to that. Just a huge event. Great way to finish that out. Funny story about that. That game was January 1st, 75. And January 31st of that year was the Southwest Conference Indoor Track Meet. And, of course, I had no time to practice or prepare for any of the indoor meets. But in that period from January 1st to January 31st, I lost 11 pounds.
Wow.
To get in jumping shape. Had no clue what I would do, but was in decent shape from football and did some lifting during that brief period, but ended up with a indoor record in the long jump. So Cotton Bowl on the 1st, conference champion on the 31st, and I was really fearful losing that weight that I would lose a lot of strength. So Coach Hart, I mean, the guy can coach, but he put me on a plan for those 2 weeks I had to get ready for the meet, and what a January. Yeah.
Exactly. So great. That was your junior year, football-wise.
Right.
Came back your senior year was 75 and team's leading receiver in 1975. Where were you guys picked going into 75?
You know what? I don't remember.
I don't either.
I think it would probably been in the upper tier.
Yeah.
Ended up, that schedule was brutal. Ole Miss, Michigan, Auburn, first 3 games, and Mark Jackson, our quarterback, got hurt and missed a couple of games, which really put us in a tough situation. Not a very good season, but not the way you want to finish your senior year, but really just a great group of guys that played hard. Went to Michigan, played those guys toe-to-toe, largest crowd in Ann Arbor at the time, 104,000.
Wow.
And what a great environment to play. It was
game.
Amazing. 14-14, really, Cleveland Franklin had over 100 yards rushing. Look at the stats in that game, and we really just took it to Michigan, but 14-14. So kind of a reflection of the year.
Yeah. On to the pros, Colts first, the team that you will always refer to as the Redskins second. Will you ever call them the Commanders?
I will not. We had just mentioned going to the National Card Show with my grandson. Just got back yesterday, and we visited with my old teammate, Joe Theismann.
Oh, cool.
And we mentioned that briefly, but our guys are Redskins and always will be.
Right.
So I don't know what they'll do about that name. Magic Johnson is one of the minority owners in that now, has a small piece of the team. And he said that this team needs to go back to their roots. So we'll see. Doubt that it ever happens, but that'd be pretty cool.
That would be cool. Great pro career for you. Back to Waco. Been here pretty much ever since, haven't you?
Came back in '83. Been here ever since.
Yeah.
The first game that I saw when I got back was BYU and Baylor, 40-36 with Steve Young.
Great game.
So I'm thinking, this Baylor football stuff's still a lot of fun.
Right. Cool. And then we put you to work a few years later, and you've been on the sidelines ever since. We talked about the weather. You've seen all kinds of weather. Yeah. What's the best venue? So you get a different perspective on the road than we do in the booth because you're right there.
Right.
What are some of the best venues you've been to?
We've been so many neat places. It was cool to go to BYU this year. Yeah. That was different. I really thought Nebraska was a good environment. Those fans are they're just nice. They're loud and they're all for their guys. But when you go off the field, they're patting you on the back. They want to talk to you. I thought that was really cool. We've been in some hard places to play. Lubbock, West Virginia, haven't won there yet. Let's maybe break that this year when we go up there. But just some really cool ones. Got some neat ones coming up. The Arizona schools. You know what? Going back to Colorado, that's one of the coolest stadiums. We're in the mountain range, back behind the press box. That's such a cool environment to play in there. But really been fortunate to play in some neat places. Then the Sugar Bowl. Yeah. In the Superdome, Fiesta Bowl in Phoenix, Glendale, Cotton Bowl championship in AT&T, Big 12 championship. Just really some cool places we've been.
Good. And Bob always has you fixed up. Your headsets work perfectly. Your mic works perfectly. Every game, every broadcast.
We've had some glitches, but all in all, that's been amazing. It's just amazing you can have this equipment and it works the way it works and get in these environments where you get different connections you have to make as far as the frequencies that Bob has to hit to keep us on the air. And I know a couple, he's had to come back to the sideline or I've had to come back upstairs to get connected because they've given him the wrong frequency. But most of the time we can pull it off without a hitch.
Yeah. Well, like I said early on, you're the perfect guy for that, and we appreciate all your years on the sidelines and looking forward to number 25 this year.
Yeah, a couple more maybe.
Yeah.
It's getting close,
all
but
right.
We're going to get this one and maybe the next one, and then we'll see. But gosh, it has been so much fun. I appreciate you letting me do that, and started out with Walter and Craig Harper.
Yeah.
Going back to those days, and now Bob and JJ. It's just, man, it's a fun group, and we have a good time.
We do.
That's the best part of it.
We
really have a good time, and I'm really thankful that our off-the-air conversations are off the air.
True, but it is more fun when you win. We have found that out through the years.
It is more fun when you win, and there's so much more to talk about in those big wins. I mean, and I go back to that 21-year. What fun that was. I mean, unexpected, I think, really, from most, and then to end up winning it all at AT&T. What fun. I know you got a picture. I'm like a little kid on the sideline when McVay made that stop.
It's a great picture.
I mean, I looked like a 10-year-old down there jumping around. But just so many things through this, and thanks to you and all the guys, I'll never forget. So cool. I appreciate that.
You're right in the middle of it. Appreciate the visit. Thanks very much. Let's get her going.
I'm excited. We're, August 31st?
Yeah, let's do it.
Looking forward to it. Thanks, John.
Thanks again for joining us on the Sic Em Podcast, presented by Harley-Davidson of Waco, a sport and story production. If you enjoyed this conversation with Ricky Thompson, head over to BaylorPlus.com or the official Baylor Athletics YouTube channel, where you can watch the premium video version of this podcast. Be sure to subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcast, leave a review, and tell your friends about us. I'm your host, John Morris, and I hope you'll join us next week on another edition of the Sic Em Podcast.